What is up, everybody? Welcome. We just had, I don't see him in the chat, but we just had Antonio donate a $5 donation to the stream. We have reached we've reached, by the way, our glasses goal. And one of my students, Joseph, who's not really seeing the streams that often, donated the last $50 to reach the donation goal. So we did reach our donation goal. I have to make an appointment to go to the eye doctor to get a prescription for my glasses. We've got an eye doctor that I was recommended from some friends, so then we could get the upgrade unlocked. Thank you guys for the donations. Happy New Year. Antonio, thanks for the donation. Mr. Coffee resubscribed for a mere 74 months in a row. He's got Aster beat. He's got Aster beat by 2 months. It's nothing. Well, it's not nothing. I mean, every little donation helps Antonio, and while it seems like nothing in itself, I just want to illustrate that if everyone donated $5, that watches my stream, I would be able to do this basically full time. So it's more than nothing. It's really gracious, and even though it's a small donation, it makes a big difference in accumulation. So I appreciate it. A lot of people never donate, and I really want to say thank you and Happy New Year. Antonio, he's not just any viewer though. He's a VIP. All right. So Mule Skinner, I saw your flare on. I think he couldn't find a mule flare, so he settled for a moose flare. But I just want to say, moose skinner is different from a mule skinner. So I saw that moose donating and supporting a public good. It's like the people who sneak onto the public transportation without paying for their tickets. It's the free rider system. Yeah, thank you. So if everyone donated $5 who watched my stream, I'd be all set. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So I have to panhandle on the side and play poker. All right, no, seriously, thank you guys. We're hosting a we're hosting analysis stream. Rapid analysis stream. Not so rapid analysis stream. We hosted a tournament Tuesday. It's Thursday. It's rapid analysis stream. All right. I got Mr. Coffee subscribed to tier 2. How did you do that, Mr. Coffee? All right. What else did I want to mention? We've got games from Morales, who's up first, Asterbeat, the White Moose Skinner, and Snedsteg to start things off. All right, let's start with Morales. He paid a good $5 for going first. No, he submitted a game against Nefedov. You did it not using an iPad. So are you telling me that iPads don't let you tier 3? All right, from Tuesday's tournament, right, against Nefedov. All right, there's no bad blood between Nefedov and Morales. This is a completely random choice. This is from Tuesday's tournament. Yes, that's what you're saying. So, Morales, Nefedov, e4, e5, bishop c4, the bishop's opening. Yeah, you and someone on sound have terrorized me lately. Whenever I play e5, my biggest fear is facing bishop c4. It's pretty annoying. Either I move 2 or move 3. For me, both are annoying. I don't know. I find the Spanish game more interesting. But alright, nevertheless, we have to figure out how to handle this. So I don't think I've ever played the bishop's opening against Nefedov. I have tried various things, but he has a very sort of like you too. You know, he has a very rigid kind of opening repertoire. You adapt more than Nefedov, but both of you have kind of fixed repertoires. And you know, off the top of my head, I don't know what he does. You know, he probably doesn't face it very often. Knight f6, and then you know, I think most players who see bishop c4 on move 2 are expecting. They're expecting d3 here, or maybe like you used to play the gambit with d4. Someone in the South has used this move order against me as well. But what? Let me ask you this question: like, what's your point? Like, why do you not play like knight c3 on move 2? You know, when you could just as easily play knight c3, knight f6, bishop c4. Do you feel like this move order has particular advantage of some kind? Not sure, really. So why not? Knight f6, knight c3. Good question. Okay, so yeah, now Nefedov kind of classical style. I would expect him to play knight takes e4 actually. Play some kind of safe variation, but he knows what he knows, you know. He knows what he knows and what he's played in the past. I've been playing bishop c5, trying to play a reverse Joko piano. And did you see what happened? Maybe not. In my simul game on Sunday against someone on Sound, Antonio, I don't remember if you were in the simul, I guess not. Someone on Sound played knight f3 against me. After d3, c6, he played knight f3. He had played f4 before. And so this time he played knight f3, and I you know, ended up losing in what was really like a very safe, what looked like a very safe black side of one of these positions. And I honestly didn't think it was someone on Sound because it was not his usual kind of aggressive line. Okay, so Nefedov plays knight c6. This is more like the main move, right? I mean, aside from knight takes e4, the most common line is knight c6, knight a5. So you're going to get knight c6, d3, knight a5, right? Nefedov has mentioned Geller before. Oh, he didn't play knight a5. Wow. I mean, this is like a probably controversial variation, but it has a good score for black. Bronstein talks about it in 100, what's it called, 200 open games. He has a game against like Korchnoi or something. Right. So I expected Nefedov to go with that. But he plays instead h6. Now h6 is a kind of weird move because h6 to me looks slow, and he looks like he's begging you to play f4, honestly. Why is h6 okay? I mean, isn't he like, please play f4? I really want you to play f4 and like kill me. It seems to me like f4 is just begging to be played after h6. Boyd forgot to play a4, it seems. a4. So h6 is a surprising move. Okay, this is a kind of fast game. Yeah, f4 across the board. I'm really shocked you didn't play that, man. I mean, you must have been completely taken out of your book or something. Why does f4 kill black, please? Well, it's not that it kills black, but I mean, Percy Hepworth this is like the most fundamental break in the double king pawn openings. We're playing the Vienna game. Anytime you're playing a classical opening where the structure is kind of closed and white has the ability to play f4, it's like a sound king's gambit. It's like playing the king's gambit, but it's not a gambit. I mean, it's just good for white. This destroys black center. It strives to destroy the black center without sacrificing a pawn. I mean, what could you ask for? More could you ask for? It's basically the point of playing the Vienna game. This type of setup is completely geared for playing f4. He's just begging for it. h6 is like a tempo loss. h6 is nice that he stopped g5, bishop g5, and knight g5, but he has no defense against f4. He's h6 literally has very little benefit in this type of scenario if you play. This move doesn't seem appropriate here. The bishop is prone to attack. If you play f4 in the future and you have to recapture the bishop, you're going to lose a tempo. You've got to watch out, as I said, prone to attack. You've got to watch out for knight to g4 in the future. He still has stuff like knight a5, so bishop e3 looks totally inappropriate. The only good thing about bishop e3 is that you stop bishop c5 and potentially prepare to castle queenside. You're not much of a chess player. Don't say that about yourself. No, I appreciate you asking the question, Percy. Much better to ask questions than to sit there and not ask questions. There's a lot of people who are probably wondering the same thing as you. Why f4 is so good. I think there's a lot of players who also they've taught themselves to never move their kingside pawns. They're deathly afraid to play a move like f4 in any position. But it's not a silly question. But now, I mean, this is an idea. Bishop e4, bishop a5, bishop e6. He can still get his bishop outside the pawn structure and trade off your good bishop. There's only one game where this position has even arisen. And my question would be now, if you can't castle, so this guy who's a good player, I never met him, Lazic. I think he may be the president of the Serbian Chess Federation. But there's more than one Lazic, so it gets confusing. It's a very common name. He played a3. The problem with a3, is that it's slow. So if you play a3, black, what I'm worried about is black actually potentially busting the center. So if I play a3 and you take, can black play d5? And if he does play d5, well, what do I do? What am I doing here? What is white doing here? How is this position okay? Knights or bishops, whatever, man. You're blowing my center up. Where's my center? What the hell am I going to do now? Right. This looks terrible for white. Yeah, it's clear advantage. Well, it's advantage to black anyway. The guy ended up losing with black. Very strange, though. I think that your move is better than Lazic's move a3. But you're still gonna have a problem with d5. I guess your move is better. I don't know, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna lose a tempo after d5? Takes, knight takes. Are you gonna play bishop d2 here? Seriously, are you going to give him your dark square bishop? If you play bishop d2, you're now a tempo down. But I mean, it's probably the best move. You could let him take. I mean, maybe castles, knight takes e3, pawn takes e3, and you get the f-file here with some attacking chances. Yeah, bishop e3 was bad. So Nefertov doesn't take his chance to play d5 and try to punish you. Maybe he's thinking he doesn't want to open the position for your bishops or something. Alright. But he has two bishops. It's not like he's given up his bishop yet. It's still on b4. Castles. And now he goes, speaking of two bishops, he goes for that. And so again, we're in sort of a weird place now, you know. He's played h6. You're castled. You're ready to play f4. Again, f4 is extremely tempting. But in this particular position, there's the possibility of this. Yeah, thus, Morales decided to play h3, which is, by the way, like a very, very subtle move. Yo, Skinner, how did you do that? So h3. Yeah, you know, I'm a little bit suspect of knight a5, but what's he supposed to do now? His bishop is stuck out there on b4, sort of adrift. I mean, he could try bishop a5, bishop b6, but it's slow. He can try d6. I mean, d6 is probably the most natural move, but again, what is this bishop doing out on b4? It's hard to see a relation in Black's play with the pawn on h6, the bishop on b4. So he plays knight a5. It looks a little discoordinated, uncoordinated, even. Okay, knight takes c4, d takes c4, and now. Yeah, I don't like to play these type of positions with Black where I feel like, you know, White has the f4 break and a clamp. I have the bishop pair, but Black has the bishop pair, but so what? You know, like, what's so great about this bishop pair? Your control of the center is more important. White has better control of the center, particularly the d5 square. So Nefertov, you know, he plays c6, trying to control d5. But this isn't, you know, like, he's not going to really play d5. He's just trying to keep you from occupying d5. Very funny, Mule Skinner. Happy New Year. So now what are we going to do? Are we going to go for f4, which would leave your pawn structure maybe? Is this going to result in a situation where your pawn structure is bad? I mean, does it really matter ultimately? Is your attack on the king side pretty strong regardless? Or should you just perhaps try to play solidly and focus on maybe just pressuring the Black position without breaking with f4? So you played queen d3. This is a good, looks like a good move. I mean, a good universal move. It allows you to maybe play knight to g3. I had a friend who had a game, an ex-friend, who had a game where he was very proud of the fact that he allowed his opponent to play bishop takes c3 and have tripled pawns. This is like the opening where it's very common to get those tripled pawns. You know, I'm not looking out of my way, you know, go out of my way to get the tripled pawns or whatever. But, I mean, Black can't really afford to give up that bishop on b4. So you play queen d3 and he plays bishop e7. I mean, this move is insanely slow. I think Black has a difficult position anyway, but it's difficult to play an active move here for black. D6 is the obvious suggestion. And you're going to pile up on the D file. He has no active breaks with like B5 or D5. He has no counterplay. And you can either break with F4 or just kind of try to put pressure down the middle. And I think he might be concerned about A3 pushing off his bishop. He can play bishop A5, bishop C7. So he defends D6, right? Well, for example, like should he play D6 and you play A3, can you play like bishop C5? What I was wondering was like something like this. This isn't so bad. I don't think this is that clear. That actually might not be all that bad for black. Maybe you don't take on C5 there. Say like bishop C5, you could just play, I don't know, B4 or maybe just rook D1. But it's okay, understandable. Bishop E7. Black is getting very passive though. Now you played F4. F4 is like the most natural move here. And it's also probably the most aggressive. I guess my biggest question would be, if you play F4 and he takes, which way are we recapturing? Yeah, it's interesting the way he played this. So he plays takes, and your pawn structure is not great, and maybe the dark squares have to be careful. I guess knight takes, although, at the end of the day, like, where is your knight going? I mean, it's not going here, it's not going here. And he's not going to let you play E5. He goes for the E5 square. Yeah, exactly. He has to. No, he has to, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 active pieces. You have tremendous control of the center. You're winning 3 out of 4 central squares. Only your favorite E5 square is held by black. But can you play like C5 at some point? Maybe to enable E5. Could that happen at some point? Perhaps bishop D4. Perhaps you double on the file. He's going to pop the knight back here and come to the E5. But if he tries to do that, remember, if he does try to retreat his knight back, he's also leaving you knight H5. And this is what happened. And I'm not sure that's a good idea. Well, I agree with your controlling the E5 square is good. I'm not sure that this is so clear, While it's a natural plan, letting your knight go to H5 may be ultimately giving you a pretty strong attack on the king side. I don't know. Although I don't know what to suggest for him here. If he had tons of time, I would say he should play like A6 and B5. So he plays this, and on knight H5, because your knight is so happy to finally have a square to attack from, what is he supposed to do now? The issue is that I think the knight on H5 is difficult to shake. And now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in the action. And I think it's a little bit much. Because most of black's pieces are on the back row. This is starting to look like a kind of overwhelming force. But I don't know what black should do instead of knight D7. And I'm not sure if he has an adequate, defense here. I mean, a6, you can say a6, but like a4, a6, b5 isn't even happening, so it's not easy to defend black here. I don't know what to do. He has no active breaks at all. No real active defense, no way to trade pieces. It looks like an unpleasant position. Very, very unpleasant. Try to trade pieces like bishop g5, but he's going to lose d6. Could he play bishop g5? Again, you don't have to exchange pieces. You can play bishop d4. And if knight e5, he just goes back. And if bishop e6, well, he can't. So white is developing very serious pressure here. Maybe you're like virtually winning. Computer doesn't think so. Damn. Unbelievable. Wow, f6. Yeah, man, I would take white here any day. Any day. You know, I mean, the computer says that black is okay, but I think it's very difficult to defend. There's no way that in a human game, black is... I think black's position is harder to play. The engine thinks it's almost okay. Looks very difficult to play. Okay, he plays bishop e6, b3, and like now what? Yeah, naturally bishop g5. But now we're at the point where it looks like you almost have c5. There is a thing though. Your knight is loose. And if you try c5, he has some trick with like queen a5. It appears. So you play what I suggested, bishop d4. Now you're threatening to win a piece. Now black's in a difficult spot. And this is where the computer wants to play f6. Or something like... It was similar to this position. It's all fine and good till someone loses an eye or whatever. You know, I mean, it looks like the bishop on g5 can get trapped. Not easy to play black. So he plays queen a5. Lateral pressure here. The problem is the queen is off sides. This is not an ideal move. I think the engine was also looking at queen e7, so maybe this is better. Like, this is the better way to play. This keeps everything kind of more compact. Now, obviously you have... I don't know why some guy's challenging me. I'm not doing challenges. You have the c5, and this is weak. But actually, you have that in the game, too. You also have it here. Black is going to have to take this in consideration. I have to take it under advisement. But c5 is, you know, because this knight is not enough secure. At the end of the day, I mean, maybe bishop e6 was kind of artificial. But I don't know what to suggest. Oh, okay. He should have played bishop g5 directly, right? And then if you go bishop d4, now queen e7. The bishop e6 move, it just, you know, what did it do? It like weakened your knight on c3. But it forced you to make a useful move anyway, which is b3. But here he has direct protection of e5, so this is his best shot, it looks like. Bishop e6 doesn't necessarily help. It makes it impossible to protect the e5 knight with the queen through e7, and now c5 is a move, and you played a4, and you know you're concerned about possible breaks. I mean, b5 is one of his only active moves that could ever be played. You're just simply clamping down. And honestly, with black at this point, like, you probably have to consider even like c5. I'm black's in a sort of desperate situation. Look at this, like, bishop versus knight situation. Knights are clearly dominant, but it's not necessarily winning. Beautiful, you know, beautiful knights, but you still have to win. I don't like the queen on a5. Looks bad. He gets this rook in the game, which actually is sensible. And now white has to find a way to break through. This is a smart move. Actually, a4 probably wasn't necessary. So what about c5? Why doesn't this work? Wow. Computer thinks he can just absorb it. You know, that's unbelievable. f6 is the engine. Just like dropping the d6 pawn. Like, I don't think that's an easy move to find, you know. I would have played c5 if I were you, for sure. Because it looks like it destabilizes his pawns. Plus, you're undoubling your pawn, you know. It's not a bad move for you to undouble your pawn. Yeah, maybe that's the point. Something like that holds. But I think this would be very difficult for black to come up with, especially in a fast time control. Of course, he has to play something. You know, what's he supposed to play? He has to play something. I guess, you know, rook d8 first. Pawn takes pawn. Rook takes. And see, now this is where the problems start to arise. With queen on a5, this becomes a possibility, right? This is a complex situation. Because, like, even this is a thing now. Attacking your queen. But ultimately, I'm not sure black has time for that. You know, so queen takes, bishop takes c5. See you later. Yeah, queen takes, bishop takes c5. Bishop c4. No, there's no time, you know. There's no time. And, like, rook takes, queen takes, it looks like you're up a piece. So things are not so easy for him. You played a4, he plays rook a8. It's a good move. You played knight f4. I mean, do you have c5? I don't know how you, like, didn't play c5. To be honest. Knight f4 is just a move, but it's a pity to take your knight off of g7. Okay, knight f4 is still a good move. And now, you know, you're not clearly threatening anything. But his solid defense, just trading off the bad bishop. Rook takes f4. And now he should sort of hunker down. He's like de-hunkering with knight g6. I mean, it seems more logical to play f6 here and shore up the e5 square. I don't know if it benefits him to pull his knight off of the e5 square. It seems like, okay, maybe he's trying to line up on your queen. Maybe he's trying to set up like c5, winning a piece. But you have rook f3, and you see it, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's easy, though. That's easy. He pulls his knight off the center. You play rook f3. And now he admits, like, okay, I'm playing for cheapos. It didn't work. And he goes back to e5. And now you've improved the position of your rook. And he finally plays f6, which is, you know, something he probably should have played earlier. And it's opposite color bishop, so kind of a sharp position now. And queen h5. And if c5, you're threatening queen takes h6 now. So he just, like, fails to defend against the threat of queen h6. It was just too primitive. Maybe he has a trick. If queen takes h6, he has some kind of discovery, like bishop g4 or interference theme, doesn't he? Unique. No, I mean, if you take on h6, he can stick one of his pieces on g4. Like bishop g4. Gonna be like leaving your queen on prise, and your bishop's gonna his bishop's gonna be attacking your rook on d1. You could get in trouble here if you play queen takes h6. So maybe he doesn't have to move his king at all, And I'm just saying, like, just make a random move, I don't know. Let's make a random move, like a6 or something, okay? Queen takes h6. What I'm saying is, like, bishop g4. What am I saying? Your queen is under attack. So queen h4. And now bishop takes d1. Get it? You get it? You're going to drop something. This intermezzo, is going to interfere with the defense of your queen. So my point is, like, I don't know if you're actually threatening anything here. Nevertheless, he should move his king maybe possibly to h7. Why h8? Maybe h7. I don't know. Okay, h8. h8 is the natural move, but he blunders with bishop f7, forcing you to take on h6. And you have no problems now with knight g4, bishop g4. So that was a time meltdown. King h8 is the best move, but it's not absolutely necessary. a6. So apparently rook f1 is really strong. You can just increase to a 5-piece assault. He doesn't have time to just make a waiting move. I just wanted to see. My point is really, I just wanted to see if you're actually threatening queen h6, and you're not. But you're threatening a general build-up. So king h8 was the best move. Okay. He blunders the bishop f7, and then, Morales destroys his king side. So that's it. That's it, basically. The dark squares collapses. I'm so happy when my opponents make catastrophic blunders and time pressure. Now you finally played c5 on move 25. But can we win without that rook in the game? You got rook d7 or something cute? Boom, 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 boom. Oh no. It is, it's very cute. So very, very cute end with the rook d7 and no checks. Nice. Alright, that was sweet. Thank you for submitting that entertaining game. Logic the second has followed. Logic the first is no longer with us. Rip. Alright. Now we're on to a more entertaining game. Asterbait playing black. Just a second, guys. I'm going to fix my workstation here. I'll be right back in 1 second. Alright, guys. Nefyadov, good to see you. You witnessed your own demise there. Thanks, everyone, for fulfilling the donation goal. We reached our donation goal thanks to a last donation from my student, Joseph. Morales, Yeah, I didn't kill you though. You know, I didn't kill you. Like, I looked at our game. I felt my play in this entire tournament Tuesday night was very unconvincing, and I'm just winning on technique and playing mediocre chess. Really. I forgot our game now. But anyway, on to Astrobate. 9 followers. Viewers. They're viewers. Refer to them as viewers. No, it's a difficult thing to ask people to follow an analysis stream. People, first of all, they don't want to think. They want everything to be spoon-fed to them. They want, to learn chess from easy. Chess is easy. Follow these 5 steps in this YouTube, video, and I'm Eric Rosen, and play to London, and all this crap. And chess is hard, and then you die, basically. I don't know how Hans did it. But anyway, our analysis stream, we're working hard here for 3 hours, analyzing serious chess games submitted by the viewers. A camp. All right. Astrobate. Chess is hard and then you die. I think that's our motto. Not meant to be easy, and it's not meant to be fun. If you want it to be fun, then tune into Eric Rosen. I don't know what to say. I'm not of the impression that it's fun. It's hard work. All right, relax. Astrobate's opponent is like phonetically. I just realized spelled relax. Speaking of, chess is fun. Relax against Astrobate, and Astrobate is black here. So Astrobate, Astrobate is, he has talent, but he needs to harness it, and I can't force him to. As much as I teach him, I can't force him to apply himself and concentrate. He plays too quickly, and a lot of people are too materialistic. They don't learn. They have bad habits. But Astrobate, I think, his only real problem is playing too fast. He will not slow down. I don't know what to do. I can't be there at the computer when he plays and to be like, all right, man, you got to take your time, take your time, take your time. E4, C5, knight F3, G6. I did a little bit of historical research today, and I learned about something I had kind of always heard, but I never knew. I was talking about this with Yabatis. There was a strong Hungarian player who was born around the early 1900s and passed away around 80, named Bakony and Elek, very old name. Bakony Elek was apparently, according to chess metrics, like 2570 strength. I'm not sure how accurate these historical chess metrics figures are, but he was a player I wasn't really aware of. I've heard of him, but he wasn't a household name. But he trained some of the younger Hungarian grandmasters who came up in the 60s, 70s, and stuff. And this hyper-accelerated dragon, I was looking at with Yabatis today. Interesting stuff, which goes back to Bakony from the 40s, 30s, 40s. I mean, other players played it as well. All right, Astrobate, but you rarely get that. I mean, most people are playing this type of boulder stuff online. I could play random players here on lichess all day long, and if they're not over 2,000, I'm not getting d4 very often. However, bishop c4 is a good move in general against g6. We've talked about this many times. Now white plays the best move after bishop g7, c3. So this is a big deal. The so-called boulder, I think that in most cases, people are just like dyslexic Eric Rosen followers. And they think they're playing the London system. They just forgot, like, oh shit, it's like e4. So they'll play routine stuff here. Pretty much everything. d3, castles. a3, knight c3. I mean, the only move that's really dangerous for black is c3. If you play d4, you have like an inaccurate accelerated dragon move order. And I do think that the Mora is okay. I don't love the Mora, as you know. The Smith Gambit, I should call it. But probably one of White's better options in this position, to be honest. However, the best variation is probably c3 first, because why not? And now we've talked about this extensively with Astrobate, with Summon on Sound, with Move 11, who's here now. Nice to see you. So we have a whole bunch of people who are, partly because of me, you know, my heritage, learning the accelerated dragon from Gingy back in the early 90s, or late, you know, middle 90s, whatever. I haven't been like faithful to only playing accelerated dragon, but I'm not like Eugene Perelstein, where I have no creativity and only play one opening for the rest of my life. I play many things, but I've stayed in touch with the accelerated dragon, and I think that a lot of people are playing it, you know, partly because of me amongst you guys. But c3, d5, Astrobate, you did it again. I should really, I know what to do, dude. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. Alright. Astrobate, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me? Astrobate just gifted a tier 1 sub to Lionel Chessy. I'll let you guys sort that out with like the... Here's an example. Today on the BBC, I saw this article about this new like dart sensation who's 16. He's like not even legally old enough to like go to a pub, and he's like the world's leading dart sensation. And this is how sick our society is, right? Just to show you how sick and perverted our society is by corporate, global, general greed. There was an article on the BBC about how much money can this 16-year-old dart sensation generate. Like, I just want to say, my rant for the day is, the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck is wrong with our society? This is what we've got to think about. Like, how much money can he generate? Are you serious? Is that why like climate change is gonna like destroy the planet and shit? Because the only thing about a 16-year-old dart sensation, the most important thing, is how much money he can make in his career, dude. That's like, oh yes. You know what? I completely fucking agree with you. And I rarely use profanity, but I do use it on occasion as a way of really, as a way of exclaiming, it's really sick, man. It's really sick. A 16-year-old darts prodigy, like, how much money can he generate? You know, that's what's wrong with chess. That's what's wrong with the chess world. That's wrong. What's wrong with the global media? Everything is about money. It's all about money. That's all anyone cares about. It's insane. It's like a sickness. That's why I like lichess, actually. I mean, it's kind of interrelated to what's wrong with Eric Rosen, and why I play chess on lichess and why I don't play chess. I mean, This is my whole point, you know. Does anybody get what I'm talking about? Anyway. Just, dude, be happy for this guy who's a great dart sensation. Do you think he's great at darts? Okay, why do we have to make him figure out how much money he's going to make in his lifetime? It's unbelievable. Can we just enjoy darts or chess or whatever and love it for what it is, instead of turning? That's all anybody thinks about is like generating money. I'm like, oh my god, dude, what is wrong with people? We have to like pollute everything with that. All right, Astrobate, D5 is terrible. It's terrible. It's never going to be allowed to be played again. You promise never to do this again. You're going to swear to me you're never going to do this again. We already talked about this, and this is trash. I only played chess for the prize money. Yeah. I became a chess player because I wanted to be rich, obviously. That's like Jesse Cry having a stream that was like Hikaru Nakamura talking about the chess economy. I'll just like shoot myself now, dude. Why do you have to pervert our sport, you know? Alright, so D5. Bishop takes D5. One of these moves is good and one of them isn't good. Now I have to remember. Pawn takes, or bishop takes. Bishop takes knight f6. You could play bishop takes, and if knight f6, just bishop e3, and then knight e4 just drops a piece to queen a4 check. So here, without turning on the engine, without cursing or saying other bad words, here's our threat. What's our threat? Ask me what our threat is. Hey, Sludgy, what's our threat? Our threat is to develop a tempo and attack his bishop and attack his pawn. But you know what? If he just goes here, guess what? We can't do queen a4 check. So we have to go king crusher style and do like bishop c4. And then on knight takes e4, what do we got? The queen a4 check. Black has, yeah, this is like a king crusher. Had this against me in a blitz game in a similar type of line, not the same, but here, check, this sort of trashy thing. It's an improved king crusher, like c3 variation. Alright, so that's variation A, and variation B is like pawn takes. And so what's our justification here? There was no justification, basically. It's just a kind of Scandinavian, basically. It's a Scandinavian where White's just going to play d4 and have a good game. Astrobate promises never to do this again. We've talked about d6. We've talked about e6 a lot, you know, and that's kind of like the main line. So you've got e6, you've got d6. Knight c6 allows d4, and then you have to do pawn takes pawn, and then d6, which is, it's an inferior, a slightly inferior d6. So it's better not to do knight to c6. And all of you guys promised me not to play like queen b6, because this is really asking for trouble. I'm like an expert on this now. Gingy, although years ago in the mid-90s, we were convinced like you should definitely do e6. But I rethought it. We recently talked about Carlsen Van Forest game. I think that d6 is actually maybe Black's best move, objectively. Alright, the Astrobate promises to stop C. Van Forest Carlsen from 21. It's a better practical try. It's less weakening than e6. You do allow White to establish the ideal pawn center, but it's not quite as ideal as we thought, maybe objectively. So I think there's something to to not creating the Swiss cheese structure with e6, although both of them are playable. Asterbate promises to stop this. Okay, bishop takes d5, so he misplayed it. Speaking of Hungarian grandmasters coming up in the 70s and 80s, Bartse Laszlo, who is not the same as Barca, who like 1G3 is named after. Barca was a stronger grandmaster. He was one of the top Hungarian grandmasters in the 50s. Bartse was weaker. I actually saw him in the 90s. He was still playing. Okay, so bishop takes d5, knight c6, or knight f6. Asterbate, you just like... The whole point is to play knight f6 here, basically. Okay, the d5 gambit, it's not that stupid. But, the point is I've told him this already, and he doesn't listen to me. This just... Giving white another tempo to try to consolidate, basically. There's a temptation. You see, this is like... It's almost like a temptation, But I mean, the white squares are very weak for white in this position. If his white square bishop goes, because he's played c3. And so the first thing you have to know in this type of position is like this type of idea, while it would be good if you have like a Rossalima where your pawns are all on white squares, is problematic in this type of situation because of this diagonal and, this square particularly. So let's just say, like, when you play c3, you don't really want to give up your white square bishop. And I feel like Acerbate's sort of tempting this guy to do that. I mean, Bartse Laszlo played knight f6, which is the point. He's going after the bishop. And this is what happened. So Mate Gaspar just died, by the way, like 2 weeks ago. I don't know what the deal was, for those of you that aren't familiar with Hungarian chess players, but Mate Gaspar was an IM, and he wasn't that old. He was like 62 or 63, and I don't know, he must have been sick, obviously, but it wasn't an accident. And he's famous because he was Leiko's first coach. And so, just ironically, we see his game here with white. He just passed away like a week or two ago. So rest in peace, Mate Gaspar. Only in his early 60s. Queen a4 check. Basically, like, he taught Leiko, who later like left Gaspar and went to take lessons with like a Dorian. And so Leiko started training with the Dorian, who also passed away recently, a little like a year ago. Okay, Queen a4 check, knight on bd7. Yeah, we're expecting bishop d7 here, by the way. I was expecting bishop d7 from Bartse. Oh no, Asterbate, what are you doing? Gifting 588 gift subs. Very nice. Knight on bd7. Okay, this is also good. It's not going anywhere. Whatever. So Asterbate plays knight c6. What about like withdrawing the bishop from the danger zone here, or consolidating with d3? This is the problem with knight c6. It's a little bit not direct enough, I think it's a little bit too slow. Our hero, however, plays d4. This move is asking a lot from the position, no? White perhaps should be more careful and play something along the lines of d3, or at least like develop by castling, possibly even h3. He's up a pawn and he needs to consolidate, not try to take more space. You figure out what your advantage is and then try to play from there. We're up a pawn with white here. We need to consolidate that pawn and win the game. That should be the strategy. Instead, he goes for an aggressive, like, opening move in the center with d4, but this is inappropriate here. Now knight f6, and white does the thing. He gives up the late square bishop. Yeah, I don't like white giving up the late square bishop here. I think it's kind of justifying this pawn sack. So I don't like d4, and I don't like bishop takes c6. I think that white misplayed the position. Now we see bishop takes c6, bc6, and this diagonal is weak. This square is weak. e4 is hanging. There are weaknesses in the whole complex of light squares, thus justifying Acerbate's original pawn sacrifice. Now probably white's next move is reasonable, because primarily, although he's further weakening the white squares, at least he gives him time to like castle. He could also obviously play maybe like knight on bd2, just protecting this pawn. But if he does knight on bd2, pawn takes pawn, maybe bishop a6, and he can't castle. So that would already be compensation for the sacrificed pawn. You can catch him out from castling. So I think maybe e5 and then get out of there is what he should do. Now here, I think you tempted him with knight e4 again. Acerbates will do this where he like provokes his opponents in a kind of hyper-modern way. I would have automatically played knight d5 here. The knight's on a good square. c4, I mean, it's possible, but white center is starting to look kind of crispy. And I think we have compensation. You could possibly make an argument that this pawn just falls. And I don't know if I have a counter argument for that or not. Maybe ultimately that's a problem. After knight d5, he's taking a second pawn. We can probably round it up, but we're still down another pawn to begin with. I don't know. So you played this, which looks kind of weird. I mean, the knight is prone to attack. It's undefended. And it doesn't have a retreat square. Obviously white can't play f3. If he could, we might lose a knight here. So now white plays bishop e3, just kind of routinely developing. And, so long as our knight isn't trapped, and white isn't castled, I mean, we've got some compensation. But what you did now is, like, it's unthinkable. You have a position where you have the two bishops, you're down a pawn, you have some compensation based on weak squares on the white color complex. And what do? You play like c4 and close the structure. This is a really, really, really counterintuitive move for me. I don't think this can be the right idea. I mean, first of all, we're trying to open the position for these bishops, I would think. And this diagonal may be important, so you should be seriously considering bishop a6. I agree, like, it's not clear what's going on if he takes here. Yeah, I mean, Morales, that's a general approach. Chess is hard because there are situations where the concepts kind of compete against each other. Like, we should open the positions when we're ahead in development. We should open the position when we have the two bishops. What if we're behind in development and we have the two bishops? You know, what do we do then? I mean, so it's hard to just decide what to do based on general concepts. Sometimes they interfere with each other, or they're bumping up against each other. But yeah, I agree in general. I mean, it seems like black should be trying to develop and open the game. So pawn takes pawn. This could lead to an exchange of queens, which isn't necessarily great for us either. Castles looks like a very good move. But c4 is weird. I agree. What I don't understand is, like, why the hell doesn't white castle here? Get out of there. I mean, it's strange. She's really delaying castling. Knight on bd2. Now what? Bishop f5. And then why does not white castle in this position? Why does not white castle? Why does he refuse to castle? Why ask why? Knight to g5, knight takes d2, queen takes d2. So at this point, I think white is just up a pawn, and black doesn't have any compensation for it. I would say. That's more or less where we're at now. We're down a pawn, and we don't have compensation for it. Bishop d3. This is okay, but he can king f2. Or castle queenside. I'd rather not castle queenside. I still don't think we have enough compensation for the sacrificed pawn. +2 according to the engine. f3 is the best move. f3 gives white square control and the idea of putting the king on f2. Artificial castling. White plays instead b3, which, okay, it's a reasonable move, but he's got to be careful about the white squares. h6, knight f3. If you play knight h3, you can play f3 and knight f4 or knight f2 or king f2. Lots of interesting stuff. So this actually looks like a bad move. Knight doesn't have anywhere to go, you know, other than e1, which is like inaccessible. He just kind of makes a routine move here. If knight h3, g5, f3, and now we can bring our knight back to f2, get the bishop off of d3, and then castle kingside. It's a very strong plan. Knight f3 is like brain dead, you know, just routinely making the first move you can think of. Agnes Karadziewski, welcome back. Long time no see. Agnes! The Agnes Karadziewski. All right. Thank you for joining us and subscribing with Prime. 37 months. You like my t-shirt today? I'm starting to look like my hair gets any longer and I grow my beard out. Be like the chess hippie or something. All right. Rook b8. Hey. Rook b8 threatening nothing. No, you have bishop d5. Sorry, that's the e4. Bishop e4 ideas. Maybe. Rook b8. Uh-oh. So he cracks. After knight f3, no, black's still better. It's a pawn, man. But knight h3, oh wow. Yeah, the engine actually went negative. It actually went negative because of queen d5. But Astrobeat is stronger and stronger as the game gets a little more simplified. Not end games per se, but Astrobeat gets better once he gets out of the opening into like early middle game is his strongest. I think the middle game in general, but early middle game, getting out of the opening to the early middle game is Astrobait's strongest point. He starts to coordinate once a few pieces have been exchanged. Maybe less options helps him a little bit. But b takes c4 seems like a bad move. There's really no reason to play this. Black wasn't threatening anything. Now the king is clearly marooned in the center. The knight has no squares from f3. We've got access to an open file, thank you. And black also not castling. You know, I think it's time to castle, but you're afraid of losing h6. All right. Queen c2, taking pressure off of h6, by the way. So castle time. Astrobeat, you should castle here. Definitely. Connect all your rooks and get it moving. He hesitates, plays queen a5 first. This is a good move too, as long as you promise to castle as soon as possible. Knight d2, and now very important moment. Where do we put this bishop? Looks like we should put it back on a6 to delay castling as long as possible. If white tries to play c4, I feel like I'm playing the Grunfeld, but maybe c5 is on the agenda. What is that? It looks like a hashtag. It's a good Grunfeld anyway, like for sure now. c5 is a good move. He does get the castle, but then we wreck his pawn structure. We would have good play. You know, I don't care about the fact that we're down a pawn now. But you played bishop e6. I think this also is tempting, but probably a mistake. It's a great idea, but after castles, your bishop's going to get hit by c4. So you may just end up losing time. And c5, well, it depends on c5, I guess, ultimately, but it's probably too slow. So better not to put your bishop on d5. All right, here he fixes his knight, bishop e6, castles, and now white is up a pawn again, but has a queen problem. Okay, queen c1. Queen c1 has the advantage of preventing the rook invasion at b2. It also has the advantage of not dropping the c3 pawn, which might be useful. White misses that, plays queen d1, and now crunch. We get our pawn back. c6 is still weak. He finds rook c1, queen d3, and then we're expecting rook takes c6 here. Why would you play rook c1 if you're not going to play rook takes c6? Someone? Anyone? Explain this to me. He played rook c1 and he doesn't take this pawn on c6. That seems sort of strange. He just forgot his plan and played knight b3 instead. Okay. Well, we're not getting a free pawn now. Queen takes, rook takes, and now material is equal. Black has the two bishops, but an isolated pawn on c6. So I would evaluate this as pretty close. Basically, this is the closest this game has been, like, since the outset. It actually looks like equal, about. The Astrobate has a tough decision now because if he only had like one more move, castles, he'd be absolutely fine. But we can't play like bishop e6 because of rook takes c6 and then the back rank. Bishop takes b3, pawn takes b3, we can't take because of rook c8 check. So we can't get our pawn back if we sack the c6. Bishop d7 is passive, but it may be necessary. I don't like to make passive moves. I would rather like sack a pawn than make a passive move in most cases, but this is pretty important, you know. If white wins this pawn, I mean, I guess you could sack it and argue that you have compensation. The question is, do you have enough compensation or not? You know, I'm not sure. So I would very seriously consider bishop d7. If knight c5, he blocks the line, and you can move the bishop again. Probably to c8, and this is not optimal. But I have the feeling like black is just about hanging on here. Sedstag, welcome. Got your game. Thank you for submitting a game. I think you're fourth. All right. But anyway, let's see what Astrobate does. So he plays rook b4. I don't get this. Oh, I see. Well, okay, c6 is hanging, and the back rank is covered. But what does rook b4 do? Nothing. That's what it does. It's a mistake. Rook b4 is a mistake. It's just not a good move. I can see rook a4, but, you know, this is not a pressing issue. Obviously, rook b6 defending the pawn allows d5, and this is a huge problem. So, otherwise, that would be a solid defensive plan. So I think you've really got to make a decision here. Did someone say bishop e4 already? Was that you, Morales? Okay. Bishop e4 makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I missed it. Yeah, of course. You can play bishop e4. There are interesting possibilities like e6. But I can just ignore that. Knight c5, bishop d5. And now we're threatening to play bishop takes a2. The only problem here is that we can't castle because we get forked by knight d7. So that's going to be a problem. We're going to have to literally like move the rook first. Rook b5, rook b2, something like that. Alrighty then. Rook b4 is a mistake. Rook c6 captures pawn, castles. So you're down a pawn, but you have some compensation for the pawn. It's like a Grunfeld. Rossalimo. It looks like what it is, basically. Like, kind of Rossalimo-like. h3, and now reactionary chess from Masturbate, but reasonable. I don't know, though. You know, I'm not sure that g4 is really a serious threat. Our bishop has squares. Yeah, it's too reactionary. You've got to play chess here. You're down a pawn. And h5 weakens your position more than it helps. I don't think like weakening g5 is a great idea. This seriously could be an issue. Because he forgot why he played rook b4. He's trying to play too fast. He probably played it to play rook a4 and then forgot. You know, ultimately white will play rook d2, I guess. And we're going to have to keep thinking about finding another plan. Black's down a pawn. So h5, reactionary move to stop that, but weakening his position. Rook c7, threatening to win a second pawn. The second pawn goes, black is lost here. And it does. But let's see what happens. You have a counter threat. Okay. Maybe e6, but again, the dark squares are very weak. If the bishop gets into g5. So you play this. This is just defending the pawn, obviously. Rook takes pawn. And he has this resource, bishop c2. It's not clear, is it? Rook c1, bishop takes b3. Now, we have a shot. A nice little trick. If bishop gets pinned, black has rook a4. A lot of times things happen behind the scenes that you don't realize. During the game, maybe white thought he had rook b1 and then realized, oh shit, it doesn't work. Right. So, we get a pawn back. Bishop takes b3, pawn takes b3, rook takes b3. But white has pretty strong play. Pawn up, rook on the 7, threatening to come down with a second rook. It looks very problematic. If I could make one of the rooks disappear and play e6, I'd say black has reasonable chances to hang on for a draw. But I don't like the fact that both rooks are on and white is on the 7th rank here. This looks pretty seriously close to lost. So, yeah, notice white can't play d5 because of this. This is very important. The pawn is immobilized. And white also has a bad bishop that's restricted by his own pawns. But this move is strong. And you can't drop the f pawn. This is gone. So Astrobate is really on the brink of defeat here. Yeah, the only move is bishop f8, and you're hanging on by your, your chin flaps here. Another ass-beat endgame. Bishop g5 done? Oh, bishop g5. Are you sure? Bishop g5 done? It's not done yet. You know, black's still hanging on with this move. Because on bishop takes, you can hold this rook ending, you know. I mean, the 4 against 3 is not a win. White needs to make progress. So bishop g5 is not necessarily enough. I mean, the move played in the game looks pretty natural. Because if he can play d6 and crash through at f7, even so, I'm not sure. I don't know that it's that easy to win this. Despite black being, you know, close to totally paralyzed. It's bringing back bad memories from my last round at the World Senior, which was sort of similar structure. I don't know, how does white win? It's not as simple. I think maybe bringing his king toward the center. I mean, if you move the king, I could cut you off. You can't make progress directly, but you can get the king a little closer to the center. I think white should slowly approach this endgame. You know, on the other hand, the other rook can move. You know, now I can activate my second rook. So it's not so simple. Maybe the white king should try to sneak up here. That's actually what's drawing the biggest parallel to my last round game from the World Senior, where I lost to Novik, where he got his king up through f3 into e4 in a similar central structure. That bishop on e3 was exactly in my game. d5, bishop c5, d6, yeah. Well, he goes for d5, we'll see. Rook d3. And now he plays your bishop g5 move. But d6, you know, like d6 isn't going to be enough because the bishop's guarding g7. So like d6, see? d6 takes, rook takes s7. This is, I don't know. I mean, this should be a draw, honestly. I don't think that white can win this, you know, even with the rooks doubled on the 7th. Is there some freaky way white can win this? It looks like a draw. It's just not, you want to have rook d7. Okay, so like here, maybe here, and then we play d6. And then you have to further prep, like with bishop c5. So, how will this work? Let's say I check, king h2, I go back, you play like bishop c5, I move my rook again. There's a possibility of this. And then there's like directly playing this. And now takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, I guess. But I mean, is this a win? I don't know. It looks like it is. But black has a draw with rook f8. It's very technical, you know. I mean, I don't know. Ask Karsten Mueller. I'm very bad at rook in games, it turns out. So the opponent plays bishop g5, and Asterbait can just take here, and this is a clear draw. This has to be a draw. I mean, bishop takes e7, rook takes e5, bishop f6. Actually, this is kind of queer, isn't it? Then we have a check, and king h2, and bishop d6 check. Whoops. That's convenient. So it's an easy draw, but Asterbait panics and plays like f6. I don't know about that, man. He's gonna win this game, right? A swindle. We're gonna win the exchange or rook is what's gonna happen. Some kind of tactic based on the diagonal. See, you could have checked already. No. Next move takes. Yep, and now d6. He's gonna lose the pawn with check. Oh my god, the guy's gonna lose all of his pieces in like one move. So here, it's a drawn position. I mean, this has to be a draw. Whatever, bishop f4, rook takes d5, draw. But he plays d6, rook d1 check, king h2, bishop takes d6 check, losing the exchange and a piece in one move. Talk about a disaster, man. That was a disaster. E takes f6. Yeah, at this point, wow. Yeah, it turns out f6 was a good move. It wasn't necessary. It was cute, actually. I would have just played like rook takes d5 and been happy to draw. But Asterbait finds a way to win. f6, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Well, I wonder if the guy, I mean, he doesn't see this, right? Like, bishop takes f6, check, king h2, bishop d6 check. The irony of the situation is, like, even if you just lose the exchange, you're still not losing here. He can lose the exchange and still be fine in this position. Rook takes d5. You can't check and take this pawn because of, let's see, king f7 here. Oh wow, you have rook g5. It's a draw. Like, everything's a draw. So Asterbait, you were really lucky there. But good job hanging in there. All right, the white mule. I've got my computer, ever since I updated the video drivers, has been. I'm sorry about the mic. I'm gonna move it. I do apologize for the mic volume being messed up by that crazy laptop fan. I forget my mic positioning. All right. The white mule is check this out, guys. Mule Skinner. Where's my message from Mule Skinner? The hell are my messages? There it is. Check out Mule Skinner. That's a moose, bro. It's not a mule. It's a moose skinner. That's like Bullwinkle the moose. You gotta find a mule. Totally the wrong animal. Alright. Back to study. Alright, now I'm gonna ask you a serious question. How do you have so many games that are the French defense? Again, there's no mule. Discrimination against mules. There's no mules. There's just no distinctive feature about mules. How could you even identify the difference between a mule and a donkey? It's even hard to tell the difference between a horse and a mule. Yeah, nice antlers. Okay, I'm going to read the description of this game here. It was Happy New Year. I'm white in this interesting over-the-board game from December against strong opponent 2100 plus. The game was played on the live board and therefore has timestamps. And you got it from the evil chess site. Well, we had another game. You showed another game. You sure you didn't show this one, right? They all play the French. I mean, this is unbelievable, dude. It's unbelievable. Do you live near the French border or something? I mean, like, what's the deal with that? You don't live in northern Spain. Why does everyone play the French defense? That's crazy. You play the French defense every freaking game, and then all of your opponents play the French every game. It's crazy. I would kill myself. I mean, it's better than London. All right. So, survey says, is Mr. Coffee here today? He's at work. I don't want to be like playing every single game in the French defense. Like playing black. That's the other. An hour ago, someone was like, "What's wrong with Eric Rosen?" Anybody who promotes the London system is, not on my good side. Everyone I play online, they're like, they play D4, I play C5 just to like avoid the London system now. It's so boring, I just can't stop facing it. If I have to face the London system every game, I'm just going to quit. So French defense every single game with both colors. E4, E6, D4, D5, Knight D2. So Neil Skinner, we've seen most of your games that you've submitted to the stream have been French defenses. And amongst those, the majority have been Tarash, which is good. Tarash is good. Nothing wrong with the Tarash. Personally, I am not a French defense expert or any opening expert except for the Kraken. Rawr! But personally, I like C5. I believe in C5. I think it's like principled. If White's going to put the knight on D2, you should probably liven things up a bit. Alright, knight F6. I also think that isolated pawns are mistaught. Very much mistaught. Pretty much everyone below IM level, I think, doesn't really understand IQP position strategy or how to really approach it. And many players are like deathly afraid of having an isolated queen pawn. It's like probably the most important structure in chess. Black should not fear the isolated queen pawn. I mean, honestly, after c5, pawn takes pawn. Look at the database. Just saying, like, queen takes d5 is more popular than e takes d5 by like 1,000 games. But objectively, I think that e takes d5 is probably a better move. Because people are like biased by bad chess teaching. This pawn is a strength, not a weakness. It's just that people, oh my god, it could become a weakness. I have an isolated pawn. Oh, Eric, what am I going to do? It's too complicated. They might have to think, God forbid. Anyways, alright, enough ranting. So here we are. Black plays knight f6. And now,
Your only alternative is like bishop d3, which is kind of lame. It's a move. You know, you can play bishop d3. And I think there's a lot to be said for side variations where the theory isn't as well known. You know, I think you could probably play this, especially against a younger player. I've always tried to play slightly offbeat lines off the main lines, not bad lines, but lines off the main lines. But you're going you're going into mainline stuff against guys that are young and well trained, and you know the average 8-year-old knows. This is like the Karo Khan classical variation. The average 8-year-old knows 30 moves they memorized on Chessable or whatever, which I hate, by the way. I hate Chessable as much as the London system, and the whole concept of memorizing stuff is just the wrong way to approach chess, but whatever. Marketing. E5, knight fd7, bishop d3, and now c5. We're going into main line. So c3, knight c6, knight e2, c takes d4. Here I don't know. C takes d4 is played in the vast majority of games. The score very strong for white. Michael Adams, Michael Adams has an amazing score in the Tarash, and in most of those openings, I think basically oftentimes it's equal, Well, the engine will say the main lines of the Tarash are basically equal. But why is white's score so good then? That's why chess, Stockfish, or whatever engine you want to use, chess evaluations are overrated. There may be it's just easier to play white, or it's easier to play black in a certain position. Look at the score here. It's not a coincidence that white has 39% winning score in the main line. That is not a coincidence. What does the engine say? White's slightly better, 0.4. That's a solid edge. But still, that's why you should play c5 in the Tarash. Okay, c takes d4, c takes d4, f6, e takes f6, and then I like queen takes f6. Black has a higher winning percentage with that move, unsurprisingly. I don't know where it stands in these modern theoretical times. One thing that's very strange for me, right? Can anybody explain to me why we're in seemingly a mainline position here? Yeah, dude, I mean the Benoni, it's not just the Benoni, I mean the kings at the end, all space advantage positions. Stockfish says is better by +1, but I mean, that's if you're a computer and you're grandmaster strength in space advantages. But I think, Stockfish's evaluations are all inflated relative to human players. You should just cut them in half across the board if you want it to be more human-esque. But why are the most top games here from 2007, 2001? That's what I want to know. I mean, semi-ancient, right? Why is there no... Is the French just out of fashion? Is the Tarash out of fashion? 2010, 2006, what is going on here? Why are there no games? Eric Rosen's not making videos on the French? Oh my god. Castle, I'm just picking on Eric Rosen today. I could just pick on a lot of people. Whatever, Alright, bishop d6. Seriously, though, look at this. Serious Sam Rybka, 2006? Dude, what is going on here? Yeah, Larry Kaufman, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Alright, so knight f3. We're still in main line. You had the exact same game in the same tournament? You had the exact same game, but your opponent played queen c7, right? So queen c7 was the other game, and here your opponent castled. I talked about this last time when you submitted the game. The thing about queen c7, okay, A, it's like the dumb end of the diagonal. B, it's exposed to attack on the C file. C, it can be attacked by knight b5. On the plus side, it obviously supports e5, which is a key break for black, and it has like lateral scoot ability. So queen c7 is, I would say, a little more aggressive, than castling. I think queen b6 would be like a transposition. Castles. Yeah, and so I'm not any kind of expert at all in these lines. I only know like the general basics. I've never played an over-the-board game in a Tarash. I've played it in Blitz online only. Well, it's like the main line of the London system. When you put the queen on e7, you don't directly control e5. With the queen on c7, you're actually directly controlling e5. So it's a little different, I think d7 is not a typical square in these type of positions. But it's like e7 versus c7. If you put the pawns back on the board, you put the white bishop on f4, pawn on e3, pawn on c3, pawn on c5, pawn on f7, you get like a London system. Black's trying to play e5 in the London system. Speaking of openings I love, Rubinstein, played from both colors where there were games with queen c7 directly controlling the e5 square. If you put the queen on e7, white might be able to play knight e5 at some point and block it off. So there's something more direct about queen c7. But okay, Milskater makes a very fundamental move here. Main line, bishop f4, which also queen c7 prevents, by the way. I didn't mention that. Bishop f4. And now what? We can't play e5. So queen c7, knight h5. Knight h5 is kind of a cool move because if you think about it, when I'm playing the Sicilian, I'm playing black, and I'm playing like knight a5. I'm normally thinking like, oh shit, my knight on c6 used to control the center. It used to control d4 and e5, and so when I'm playing knight a5 in the Sicilian, a lot of times I get in trouble because maybe those squares, the e5 square and the d4 square, were somehow very relevant. But when you play knight h5 here, the interesting thing, really, I think, is that you don't have any problem. Like these two squares are really solidly controlled. So, in a sense, we're not seeing any immediate downside with knight h5, where you're like losing control of key squares in the center by moving knight on the side. However, it should be mentioned that in the long run, when you play this move, you may actually burn yourself because later on, if you do intend to play e5, then the d5 will be relevant. The fact that d5 is not as well supported may be relevant. Maybe the knight not being on f6 will matter because this will be ultimately weak. We'll see. So I think anytime you move a knight off to the side of the board, you need to think about, what effect that has on your control of the center and what does that mean for the position. So this is more routine. And obviously, let me turn off the opening explorer here for a second so we're not like biased, but we just traded off our bad bishop for black's good bishop. This is a very standard exchange that's good for the French in general. Pawns are fixed on the bad color. Black has a restricted bishop. He can achieve e5. Isolated pawn, blah, blah, blah. Isolated pawn, not so easy to attack. So I'm not worried about that isolated pawn. This square is more important. What I am concerned about is the unprotected knight at f4. So, I probably saw this position before. What can black do, though? Is this the thing? Is it knight e4? I feel like I had a game where this happened, probably. I believe that I had a game where I got this position myself, and g3, the thing is, it like weakens our king side. And it weakens the control of f3. This would totally uproot the entire position, What I'm thinking is that I had a game where I played queen c1, and I'm just keeping this protected. But I might be wrong. My memory is really shot. So then we have to look at crazy shit like calculation based on g5, knight e2. Now, I don't know. This is not going to happen here, right? Exchange sacrifices are not happening here. So g5 probably just weakens black. So queen f6 or something, let's say. And then what does white do? Then we have to toe the line. This is under pressure, knight back. So I'm expecting this to be the sort of continuation. In the game, he played bishop f4, knight f4, and knight e4. But Muleskinner didn't play queen c1 now. I mean, I know there are positions where queen e2 exists, but that's not with the knight on e4. Our only option is queen c1 to get the queen on e3, basically, where it's kind of well placed and hard to attack. This is a good plan in general. Queen on e3. So you obviously are aware you can play g3. Okay, this exchange sack could happen as well, but I mean, black isn't really developed enough to generate like a serious attack. The queenside pieces are back, and there's no e5. That's an option in some positions, not here. There are tactics, obviously. So this is maybe a new move. Okay, this looks awkward, right? Because your knight is going to have a hard time getting back. How are we playing knight h3? Like, I don't mind putting my knight on the side of the board, but how is it getting back in the game? And why do we choose knight h3 versus like knight e2? And there are reasons for this. Exchange sack here, not protected by the queen. I don't think the exchange sack is clear. He could sack the exchange and then maybe play like knight g5, right? Well, there's thoughts of g5, but I mean, still black. Yeah, I guess you prevent g5, right, with bishop takes e4. It's still complicated, though, because this is falling. Yeah, but you're right, chess riddle. This is obviously a factor, control of g5. In a vacuum, I don't want to put my knight in the center unless it's getting back in the center. I don't mind put it on the side. I don't mind putting it on the side of the board. Oh, knight h5. Did I do that? Unfortunately, knight h5 looks a little bit out there. So knight h3, is this a new move? Okay. Wow, so it's a novelty. Queen c1's the main line, knight e2 is second, g3. Knight h5 has actually been played in 76 games, holy shit. Okay, I mean, it can come back to g3. This makes sense. You're getting back to g3. He's just on the exploratory probe. He's on an exploratory probe mission, but the knight will solidly come back to g3. Rublevsky, Volkov, you know, it's probably like Russian Championship, 1998. So new move, knight h3. Yeah, your biggest challenge now is like getting that knight back in the game. Plus it's vulnerable to this, right? Oh. So is e5 right away? Oh no. Because you don't want to go g6? Yeah, I mean, I don't think that g6 is that bad for black. It's a little bit weakening of the dark squares. But it's not like fatal. I mean, he can play g6. This could even be useful. I mean, black sometimes might swing the queen over or something like that to g7. Access to g7 might be useful. g6 isn't all bad. Yeah, I don't think knight h3 is good because of primarily this e5 with the threat of snapping this guy. But, you know, I don't know if black can get away with e5 or not. You know, this is not clear. Are we going to give up the bishop? And if we give up the bishop on h3, is black's attack strong enough or whatever? You know, so the guy goes for it with e5. Now, okay, well, I mean, there are different options here. We could consider taking the knight on e4. In a vacuum, this exchange is not that horrible for us. The bigger issue is the structure. I don't mind like losing the knight to a bishop, even a bad one, but the kingside structure being, you know, smashed up is not good. According to Muleskinner, by the way, black is like a 2100 FIDE. This is not a weak player. This is not a 1500. Black is 2100. But white's options here are pretty limited. I mean, you're looking at bishop takes e4. Yeah, I mean, here actually, one thing I was just wondering about was like what would happen if we took on e4 first. We took here, he took this. You know, we took back. I know Stockfish is going to be very, very unhappy with this position, but maybe we can hang on with like queen g4. This reminds me of a game I had. When was it? Reminds me of a game I had. Was it last year? No, it was this year. But I thought, oh, it's not that bad, you know, and the computer was like +3 for black or something. 1.3. Like, okay, you might be able to grovel for a draw here. But it looks like knight h3 is definitely a mistake. So you took on e5, and then he takes on d4. Wow. I completely missed this move. Knight g5. No, okay, there's this possibility. Bishop takes, pawn takes, knight g5 or something. That's why I kept thinking about this. Then you would probably take here, and now knight takes. But I think there'll be a lot of rook endings that are draws, like heavy piece endings we can draw. But I think knight h3 is definitely a mistake. e5 is strong. I really didn't expect him to play knight takes d4 though. I don't know why. Yeah, because we don't have like queen b3 check or anything. This may actually be a good move. We can't get our knight off the side. But we have tricks, like bishop takes and maybe knight g5 or something. Man, this bishop is really, really powerful now after e5. Look how strong that bishop is on c8. I mean, the main thing is that this, and then what? It's hard to see a move here for white. I mean, a good move. I'm really having trouble finding an idea, you know, let alone a good move. It looks very bad, you know. So, all right, we're not going to do that. What about f3? We open up that diagonal potentially for black to attack, but maybe it's not that big a deal. If f3, queen b6, king h1. Bishop takes h3. Well, h1 is a good place to be in this situation, I think. We're happy that our king is on h1. And then it doesn't seem to be any kind of like knockout here. It's hard to like white's structure, but at the same time, I don't see a blow. You know, there's nothing like black can do to blow white away here. Yeah, f takes loses a pawn. I mean, I don't know. Check, king takes. Wait, am I hallucinating? That doesn't lose a pawn. Alright, no. F takes is possible. Yeah. Okay, yeah. You're right. When you're right, you're right. Okay, rook takes rook. Yeah, actually, no, this is totally fine. Yeah, you're right. Good point, of course. Yeah, no, king h1 is fine. So, yeah, we're taking on, good point, Riddler. We're just taking. I don't know why I hallucinated. I was, like, losing a piece or something. Black's losing a piece here. Maybe possible there's a tactic. I don't know. You know, I don't see anything. But if I was looking for black, maybe. If I look from black, we have queen takes b2 check. Bishop g2, queen g2 check, queen b2 check. Doesn't seem to be anything. No, I don't think so. I've been known to miss stuff, but yeah. So I vote for f3. Get him the hell out of my position, and give me knights. Give me my knight back on f2. No, seriously. If he makes, you know, actually, there's some threats now. If this knight goes away, it's like bishop takes h7 check, and I'm taking your knight on d4. What's going on here? I mean, this is kind of why I didn't expect knight takes d4, you know? It looked like it's unsafe there. I definitely expected black to, like, take on e5. Well, I think f3 should be on your radar, because at the end of the day, these knights are just like, those knights are sitting on you, you know. You want to get them away, get them off you. You know, they're in your airspace, in the center of the board. And B, this knight on the side of the board literally cannot get back in the game. You know, and F3 would give us the perfect way to get it back to F2. I think a lot of people are way too afraid to move their F-pawns in general. I mean, I know so many players up until like 2200 level who they're like, they will just not, it's like glued down. They will not touch their F-pawn because Ben Feingold said not to touch it. You know, it's like crazy. I checked bishop takes h3, yeah. And then we take on e4. Oh, right away. You're saying right away. Well, no, I mean, obviously it's a move. Okay. No, my first, there's this check here, right? So we want to take on e4. He's got the engine. Queen g5. Don't use the engine. That's not fair. No, we didn't look at this position. Queen g5. So that's an advantage in not putting the queen on b6. This gives us queen g5. Bishop takes h3. Gives us queen g5. But anyway, like, this is strong, obviously. That's not good. So f3 has a problem. Thank you, ICTs. If pawn takes e4, queen g5, and threatening mate and threatening the knight. Now hold on a second. Do you want to do it first? Okay, you want to do it first. Do I not have a defense here? Something. It's annoyingly difficult to protect that the g2. Jeez. It's almost impossible to even just protect g2, let alone like save my knight, you know. I can trade and then bring another attacking piece into the thing and then just like go here. This looks very bad, right? Queen takes e5, pawn takes here, and then knight f3 check. Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's all over. So f3 doesn't work. Do you think we have that? Defense? I don't see any ideas here. No, I think this is bad. Doesn't work. I think he's right. You know, the queen a4 looks interesting. Really paradoxical move. That is a cool idea, dude. This is a really nice move. I mean, ultimately f3 is weakening the king side, and I was hoping it will work out. But if bishop takes h3 works, then we're in trouble. This is an unbelievable move, by the way. Queen a4. Like, not the type of move the opponent probably even saw. You know, I mean, this is counterintuitive. Your queen is over here in the center. It's popping out to the side of the board where you least expected it. On a4 to attack that knight on d4. I would say your opponent almost certainly would have anticipated this move. So what is black going to do now? The queen could end up being out of play on a4, and it's moving away from the king side. But what are you talking about? Like knight g4 ideas? Like in general? You guys are like off on knight g4 world. I would bet like knight takes d4 is not black's best move here. Let's just see what the computer says. Wow. It's really close. But it is one of the best moves for sure. So it's really, really close. The computer actually thinks that, wow, queen a4 is best. Knight takes d4, queen a4 is best. You know, I have to be honest, man. I don't think I would have seen this move. I really don't think I would have seen this move. I don't know. It's like forcing tactical move. General principles be damned. You know, there's even an added benefit that you're connecting your rooks with this move. Oddly enough. Here's a crazy suggestion, right? But actually not so crazy. What about queen h5? You know? If we're gonna... No, seriously, if we're gonna like move the queen to a crazy square, why not h5? At least it's on the right side of the board where the action is actually taking place. And it's eyeing h7 and it's protecting the knight. You know, this move looks like... ICTs, you have to stop with the computer moves there. He's got it immediately with rook f5. No, nothing weird about it. I mean, it clearly forks the two pieces. There's this, though. That's kind of crazy. Right? Like queen h5. Rook f5, knight g5. And now queen g5. Or knight g5. Like, this is weird, right? It's a snake-like formation of all these pieces. I wonder what the longest like piece snake ever formed in front of the like first rank was. You know that like snake, like the snake game for your phone. We're busted here. Well, he might just win like two pieces for the rook, which is probably good enough, but anyway. So queen a4 is best move. Nice job. And now queen b6, guarding the knight. Eyeing f2, continuing the threat of bishop takes h3. And I did like connecting. And this definitely stops f3. I think we can rule out f3 for this move. But now there's bishop takes e4. White plays another move we didn't expect now, knight d7. That's very forcing. Mule Skinner, he's got the forcing moves going on in this game. Threatening to win the exchange, you know, like queen a4, I'm not sure about queen b6. But black has to defend his knight. I mean, how many options does he have here? Moving the knight or defending it. That's about it. There's no other options. You can't take here and let white have this like ultimate position. You know, I mean, this is like terrible for black. I was talking about good isolated pawns, but this is not really an instance of a good isolated pawn. This is a bad isolated pawn. It's kind of immobilized, and black is worse. you clearly have to move the knight or defend it. That's the only option. Where do you move it? Knight f5, losing a pawn, losing a pawn. You know, everywhere is like losing a pawn. We're just x-raying this here. This is basically logical. This keeps us from accessing e4. And then you stop the attack against h3. Spectacular Camel, no relation to chemiculture. Thanks for joining us. No submission from Mr. Slow this week. This game is kind of now it's getting technical. You managed to avoid any kind of direct attack. The only thing I'm worried about now is that pawn. Being a passer. And now, again, I was expecting queen h4, but that's illegal. Queen g4, my other queen h4. What do you have against the king side anyway? Why not queen g4? He's like queen side obsessed. What's on a4? You played queen a4 here. I mean, this is strange. Why not queen g4? Knight c6, what? Sada Masagana, what? Knight c6, knight c6, bc6. And the other variation, you were talking about this, is possible. Knight c6, bc6. Okay, I mean, white doesn't have to be greedy though. See, we this is materialistic. Queen takes c6 is very materialistic. I think that white would play bishop takes e4, and yes, he's fine. That's not a problem. But this is very interesting. Take, rook d8, and now queen g4. And like, okay, if you take, well, this is a draw. I mean, this should be a draw. Pawn takes e4, queen takes e4. Black visually is pretty active, but I mean, there's a check on e2. I don't think that either side should win this position. It's not a dead draw, but I mean, it's equal-ish. Astrobate, thanks for the gift sub for Safar. So this is surprising. He went to a4 for me. I mean, first of all, black might be able to take on b2. I don't know about that. But secondly, this feels more active, and it's like more in coordination with your knight and your bishop. There's no real scary moves. Like, this move can be met by simply queen h4. This actually looks quite promising for white. Now, your pieces are almost sort of coordinated. Astrobate! Gifting a tier 1 sub to ICTs. That's 5 today. Thank you, sir. Don't spend it all in one place. 5 gift subs from Astrobate. The ultimate VIP. Thank you for supporting the stream, sir, and encouraging others to join us. Alright. So, I don't know, Mule Skinner, what were you thinking here? I don't know if he's still here. He probably had to go. Alright. Queen a4. Back to the queen side. I just feel like we're stuck here with our queen on a4. No real forward plan. What about b2? Can someone explain to me what happens on b2? Someone explain to me why I can't take this pawn. The point is, rook b1, queen c3, attacking the bishop, keeping the knight protected. And now if bishop takes e4, just take back, and the rook will help protect here. Now, white can take on a7 or b7 or something. But it's complex, I don't know. Black feels better centralized. I mean, all these pieces are really, really well centralized. The knight on h3 needs to get back in the game as soon as possible. Alright, so he goes here with knight e2. So this move, you have to admit, like, knight e2 seems kind of strange. What exactly does that do? I don't understand knight d2. You're attacking my rook on f1, okay. f2 is protected. Is he trying for some kind of cheap mate on h2? With the sacrifice, like on f3, and then just mate us on h2? It looks like that's the only point, right? Knight f3, sack, and then other knight, and then queen d6, and mate on h2. Other than that, I don't see the point of this move. I mean, it could be like rook e1, knight f3 check, takes, knight f3 check, take the rook. But obviously white can put the rook on a different square, i.e., yes, rook d1. Alright, now, yeah. Black reminds me of my last opponent. You know, he probably plays a lot of bullet chess. Immediately playing like a really hyper aggressive, very forcing move. It's hard to believe this works, though. You know, you guys know my theory about tactics, right? The 99% of chess tactics don't work. Only 1 in 100 like possible tactics work. This idea of sacrificing a knight on f3, it's almost too. It's a conspiracy theory. It's just, it would be amazing if it worked. Does it work, really? Check, take, check. Move my king to f1. What do? You know? Do you have like queen h6 or something? I mean, rook take? Seriously? I'm in there with like king f1, knight g1, you know. I'm going to play king f1 and knight g1 and just huddle up. I love defending. I think this might end in a draw. Some sort of perpetual check. I wouldn't be surprised. So I want to take this. I got to take this. Take, show me, check. Show me the win for black here. I want to see it. Like, I understand that king h1, queen d6 looks really scary. That I understand. But I'm not sure about king g2, and I'm less convinced about king f1. But I guess king g2 makes the most sense. We could always play rook h1 to defend our h2. You know, now g6 is guarded, by the way. If queen d6, rook h1, and I'm really very curious how white is like lost here. But if your opponent is like a kid and he's like super confident, like slamming down the pieces real fast, you know, knight f2. I want to see the money here. Maybe, you know, maybe the suggestion of rook f3 is not stupid. You know, a slow move like this might work. But we also have a tactic with bishop takes. Oh, we have queen takes d4. What's that, a draw? It's a draw. Queen takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop h7, king h7, rook takes d4, rook takes h3, draw. Nice variation. Silicon. We don't need the silicon, you know, I mean, it's kind of defeating the purpose. We'll go to silicon as a last resort. But that kind of is like a spoiler. Too much silicon already around here. I'd rather go with the carbon-based analysis. Silicon is last resort. Knight takes f3 check. Yeah, I say king g2. Okay, there are attacking chances for sure. Like the queen can swing over here. I don't believe this though. I think my spider sense tell me. My spider sense is telling me that this sacrifice is too much. You know, like black shouldn't do this. You know, this feels wrong. Black has a normal position, and he's suddenly like going totally psycho because it's the first thing that you could think of, and it's very forcing. People are inherently lazy, so they're attracted to like very forcing variations, whether they're good or not, because they can like clearly, you know, define what's going to happen. So by playing this like super aggressive forcing line, he's comfortable because at least he knows what's going to happen. If he plays a quiet move, oh my god, a quiet move, tension. So let's see what Silicon says. You know, I don't think that 92 is right. Wow, it is. No, it's the wrong knight. Holy shit. Oh, well, I don't know. Okay, so 92 is good according to Silicon, but they're talking about rook e1. Okay, this is a different variation. This happened. I can't believe this is working. Knight on 4 to f3. Well, that would eliminate that queen takes line. But this is no longer a possibility. Wow, I can't believe this works. Takes, check, king g2, queen d6, rook h1. Queen e6. As Emery Tate would say, triple exclam. But I will say another thing, like I'm not sure about our king move. This is not a no-brainer. It also might be better to go to f1. But there is queen h6 here. Complicated. Very tactical player if he goes for this. So let's see. You didn't take the guy. Takes, king f1. Man, I probably would have taken this. Maybe I would have lost. Sorry again. King g2, queen d6, rook h1. Then I might have missed this little detail. Threatening that stupid knight on h3. There's no way to protect the knight on h3 against what exactly? My god. Knight h4 check. It's all about knight h4 check. I mean, the queen is guarding g4, so there's like no immediate queen check. But it's just, you don't even have knight h4 actually. How does this even work, dude? White is up a piece here. h4 is covered. g4 is covered. We're up a piece. We're down a rook. Man, if this guy finds this line, he is a computer. I mean, I'm afraid, like, only, like, the craziest, most accurate tactical players could have even conceived of this. This is winning. Winning for black. Despite the fact he only has one pawn for a bishop. It's a winning position according to the Silicon. I would be concerned my opponent was spending a lot of time in the bathroom here. That is not an easy sacrifice to decline. But Muleskinner declined it on principle. Maybe you didn't have the time to calculate those complications. So King H1. And you probably made the right decision ultimately. And now G3. I have to say, though, I don't know if I would have been convinced, you know. I'm not a computer. You made a good decision, it looks like, you know, on principle. But I still want to go back to that Queen H5. Queen G4. I mean, keeping my queen on the king side. Here your queen ends up paying the price, it feels like. Man, this is really awkward. What a move. I have another question. Why is this guy playing the French defense? You know? This guy's coach, or whoever he is, like, a serious me. I mean, I don't know about the French defense. It's like George Meyer. He's like the anti-George Meyer. Are you sure you should be playing the French? Alright, bishop takes b5. Actually, the French, unfortunately, I played the French. Bishop takes b5. Knight takes b5. That's it? Bishop takes b5, knight b5. Queen b5. Queen e6, threatening this. Crazy. Not a strategic type of player. And now, king g2, knight h4 check, takes, queen g4 check, king h1, queen h3. So finally, like, the smoke clears, and white reaches. Yeah, very similar to that game I had last year I was talking about. Bishop takes h7 where? I mean, b5 is a nice move. I mean, it's a very strong decoy, and I mean, white obviously has to consider this. That queen is really out of play on a5, though. So after bishop takes b5, the bishop's out of play. No, the nice thing about this bishop, though, is that it can come back to f1. You know, it's possible that black goes too far here, trying to attack. If that bishop comes back to f1, it's going to, like, hold everything. So it's not just like a decoy. I mean, that is a good defender. This thing coming back to f1, you're eliminating a powerful defender by getting rid of that bishop. Now there's no defender on the white squares around the king side. He wants to play queen e4, it looks like. And now you have to take because of queen e4. Yeah, you have to take. You have to take because of h3. So check here, takes. This is forced. And now, very much like the game I had with this Indian guy in September, my king is exposed, and he has a passed d-pawn. It was like the exact same kind of thing, and my queen was out of play. There's a lot of similarities, but I ended up drawing that game where I drew with like queen against two rooks or something. I managed to sack a rook. You guys are like, what game? I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about how funny it is that, like,
a game I played in September would be kind of similar to this. Same busted king side, same pass pawn, same white queen like out of position on the queen side, same active rooks on the F file. Funny coincidence, but I mean, I'm always optimistic, about defense, and so I guess a lot of times, like, that's why I wanted to take that piece. I guess I'm a little bit over optimistic when it comes to defending positions. Like, I think I can defend positions that are beyond saving a lot of times. But here, Queen E2, it's definitely a good move, but it's not the only move. The D5 pawn is extremely dangerous. It needs to go. If that could go, we'd be fine. We can't take it because of that. Rook D3 needs consideration. Yeah, all these variations like Rook D3, Queen H4, Rook D3, Rook D3 blocks our queen too. So like Rook D3, Queen H4, you're still on E4, and we still can't take the pawn. In my game that I was talking about, my rook did the lift and came over to G3 to try to save myself. Oh, Queen F1, okay. Like the Marshall. Yeah, Queen F1. I mean, I think we should save this, but it's just not that easy, 3 heavy pieces on the board. Let's just say, like, White's queenside majority doesn't really matter here. Our king is exposed, Black has a pass pawn, and Black's heavy pieces are active. We are really close to lost here, I would think. Queen H4, you've got to be very, very careful. This needs to be blockaded. I think our first... Well, we can't drop F2, obviously. You think Black would have a better move than Queen F4 now. This doesn't look too dangerous. I don't know. Maybe it's just a draw. We also have the G file. Black is definitely better. Yeah, not so easy. Queen F4 is not... For once, this guy didn't play the best move. That gives us the time to play Rook D3. Queen F4 was seriously inaccurate. And now he does the unthinkable. Oh my god. Yeah, it was a good game. He trades queens here. Yeah, I mean, it seems like at this point you're still in serious trouble. I'm surprised by Queen F4. I guess position was too tactical for this guy. But he just like trades queens. I mean, yeah, he's a tiny bit better now, but I mean it's totally a draw. Phew, that was close, dude. You were lost, and you know, I would have taken the piece, honestly. The computer says it's winning for Black. But I didn't see a clear win, so you actually did the right thing. I don't know about Rook C2 here. Maybe you should just play B3. Your rook's on an open file. I don't like this. I don't like this really, like defending with rook here, defending the pawn with the rook. So Black's a tiny bit better. Yeah, anyway, crazy game, man. I would have been very likely to take that piece sacrifice and think that maybe it doesn't work. Alright, Snedsteg. Our next game is Snedsteg. Doesn't seem to be here. Yeah, that was a really good game. Very interesting. Very tactical play for a Tarish French player with Black. Definitely a strong online bullet player. Probably thought he could get him in the endgame. I mean,
what is Black doing? He probably doesn't have an endgame. He's probably like a kid. He was an older guy. That's weird. He was an older guy. Wow. You would think he would appreciate he was better, in the endgame. Maybe he was just tired then, I don't know. He sort of just gave up trying to win after Queen F4. I felt like... Okay, there are old people who are not specialists in endgames. I mean, not everyone is good at endgames because they're old. It depends on style. But, alright. D4, G6, Sensei is black. Okay, so this is a weird Scandinavian. White. Really white. Could transpose to Caro Kann after knight c3. But I mean, the acid test is pawn takes pawn. I mean, come on. A newer FM. Yeah, they're terrible in endgames. They probably never had an endgame. They got the FM title by just checkmating people in the opening and middle game. They never had a game that reached an endgame, and they're an FM. Pawn takes pawn. Definitely White's best move here. Alright. Instead he plays e5. So, unlike the Gurgenidze Caro Kann, Black hasn't wasted a tempo, so to speak. Hasn't wasted a tempo, so to speak, on c6. Pogorelov here played bishop f5. That's an extremely strange move. Whatever. Alright, bishop f5 is not a normal thing to play in this position. I would think you might benefit from not playing bishop g7. In many cases, in the Caro Kann Gurgenidze, I mean, if White plays f4, you're going to play h5, blockade the position, and then place the bishop outside the pawn structure, play e6, and your bishop actually develops on this diagonal. How to reach 2065 not being an FM? Mule Skinner, you realize, right, that you have to reach 2300 to be an FM. I played with Eric. What's his name? Brulel, or I played with a player from France. I think he was 2305, 2315 back in the 90s, and he never got the FM title. The problem with FM is because of this stupid FIDE changing the title rules. I don't know when. FM used to be I qualified for FM in 1991. I had 27 games over 2300. And I forgot to remind the US Chess Federation to apply for the title. I was 2330 after 27 games, which was the requirement. They didn't apply for the title, and then I dropped below 2300, and I had to I couldn't get the title. You had to be over when you applied for the title. So even though I had been 2330, I still couldn't get the FM title until 1993, when I went under and went back up over 2300 again, or 94, I don't remember. So then they changed the rules in the recent in the recent millennium. Not only do you only so you only have to go over 2300 ever. And I guess that the guy from the World Senior, my opponent, who was 2305 in 1993, could have technically claimed the FM title. But the point is, by taking away the requirement to maintain the rating for 27 games or whatever, you really, really, really destroyed and weakened the strength of the FM title. So now a lot of people, especially young players, they'll get like an overrated rating. Maybe they'll be like 2,300 on one supplement when they're really like 2,150. And then the rating will fall right back down, but they'll get the FM title. There was this kid on my team like that. He was an FM, but his real strength was like 2,150 because he just happened to get lucky and have a couple good tournaments and get over, but he was never 2,300 strength. So there's a lot of FMs like that, especially younger kids who, they're really like 2,150, 2,200 strength, but if they have a few lucky results, the K factor enabled them to get over 2,300. They were never really 2,300 strength though. So I mean, it's all so that FIDE can make more money because they get like a fee for processing ratings or whatever. But FIDE Master used to be a very serious title, and it's not so much anymore. I mean, I was literally 2330, and then I still couldn't get the FIDE title for like 2 years. All right, anyways, so e5, bishop g7. I would hold off on that. Yeah, the question is what to play. I like c5 though. I don't know, Yeah, on f5, if white plays f4, we'll do either h5 or knight h6. If you play h6, you transpose to a advanced Caro-Kann, but the problem is that c4 is very strong here. Very strong. So white is like much, much better. This is actually pretty nasty for black. So you can't play c6. h5 really shouldn't be played unless white plays f4. Pogarola's move is stupid, like bishop f5. So the question is like, okay, bishop g7, do we want to play that or do we want to check behind door number 2? My inclination is that c5 is probably like the best shot here. I mean, it's basically like, think about it. This is a whatever Botvinnik variation of the advanced Caro with the free move. We've got the free move g6. Mule Skinner, are they going to do that rating thing? Because I thought they were, but I'm not sure. People under 2,000 are going to get a bunch of points. The other experimental ways to play include like f6. Yeah, it has been decided. That's what I thought. Ubatis was trying to argue with me today. He was trying to argue with me today that it wasn't approved or something. I got the impression from the FIDE website that it was approved. Right. All right, so you agree with me. I was on that side. But Ubatis is a conspiracy theorist. He doesn't believe it. All right, so bishop g7, knight f3. So if f4, h5, this is main line. As one of the viewers was saying, like it is possible to play knight h6. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the Gurgenidze. So knight f3. This transposes to well, honestly, like c5 will become almost like a Sicilian, like a g6 Sicilian. White hasn't played c3. This is a really, really like psycho-aggressive way to play. Like a rat. You can try to do knight h6, knight f7. Yeah, no, I mean f6 is not a safe continuation here for black. So you can see there's a couple games with the c5. A double. Chernyshov playing this against Fiddler. He got ganked after pawn takes pawn. Thanks to the pawn, Constantine. Alright, so nothing wrong with c6, though. I mean, c6 looks solid. You could play bishop g4, but I think we got to watch the queen side. You're going to have to trade that bishop on f3. So you play f6. This is very risky. Bishop d3, knight c6 in front of the c-pawn. But now the bishop's committed to d3, so there's no bishop b5 without losing a tempo. Well, basically we transpose to a type of Nimzovich defense. I mean, I imagine that white has a significant advantage here. If white was castled, I mean, think like c4 could be a very dangerous concept. Still, it's not that simple. Even losing a tempo, you know, you might be able to play this even like a tempo down. I mean, to be honest, knight c6 is pretty risky. Obviously, white can also take here, and black should probably take with the knight, but pawn takes is an option. So knight c6 castles, f takes e5. This looks like something I would do in a blitz game. Now, I mean, the point is, if white has a pawn on the e-file, he won't have access to a outpost square. So Nimzovich doesn't have access to the e5 square where this piece is. He's going to need to win some other way. Again, bishop e5 is still an idea. Oh wow, black just takes the pawn. He just sacrificed the pawn. Yeah, that is weird. I wouldn't be surprised if this sacrifice isn't unsound. I would be a little bit reticent to take that. That looks like the kind of pawn I take and I get in trouble, but alright. It's a reasonable gambit by white. Yeah, white has compensation. I mean, you know, black's position is not super safe here, but it's not really clear to me. I wouldn't feel safe with black. At the same time, with white, I wouldn't be sure if my compensation was enough without the silicon, you know, analysis. What should white do? I mean, c4 is pretty obviously an option. We have to put pressure on the black center. The problem with rook e1 as played in the game is that f2, you know, probably I'm being paranoid, but you know, given the option to play like queen e2 or rook e1, it may be better to play queen e2. Because ultimately f2, you know, stays protected. Chansey, I mean, the fast h4, h5 is a great idea, but I think the fact that white is castled kind of hurts it a little bit. It's not as powerful. It's just not, it doesn't have the same power without that rook behind it. You know, okay, it's plausible. And now black like induces him to do it with queen d6. He's like, please play h4. No, I agree, like h4, h5 is still a move. Black will play knight f6 though, stopping it. If you play h4, I'm certain that black will play knight f6. It's not clear he can actually execute h5. Queen d6, an interesting move that deserves commentary. I mean, I think white at this point should be like not concerned about his h-pawn, you know. We've already sacrificed one pawn. What's the difference if we sacrifice two? White should go on the offensive here. But this needs to be considered. I mean, c4. Let's be consistent. Are we really going to like worry about bishop takes h2 check? Rather than h4, though, I would say just sacrifice h2 and strive for development. I mean, it's still queen e2 is an option, and c4 is an option, and knight c3 is an option, but it blocks the c-pawn's ability to attack the center. So I'm not sure we really want to do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a vacuum, like c4. There is a problem here, like black could bail out with d takes c and maybe go into an ending a pawn down. But I'm not sure this is so bad for white because of black's discoordination. Thanks for the gift subs, guys. Astrobate with 5 gift subs today. Alright, so I think it's a little inconsistent. You know, he plays g3. Let's see what Silicon Monster says. It actually likes h3. So much for my idea. Sacking a pawn with c4. It just hates it. It says black just takes the pawn. Wow. I guess I've been playing too much bullet chess. I don't know. You know, I wouldn't have been as confident. Again, the computer is very confident in its calculations. But I guess I'm overestimating white's initiative here. 2 pawns is a lot. Alright, that's what I get. g3. I admit, like, h3 is not very exciting, but it doesn't weaken the king side as much. You know, g3. Maybe black's gonna play h5. I don't think so. No. Alright, black's gonna castle queenside though. I predict. So, knight f6, knight c3, bishop g4. I have the feeling. Oh wow, this feels like a blitz game. This is actually, what was the time control? 30 plus 3. Is that 60 plus 30 plus 3, right? 150. $1,500 plus 3. What's 1,500 plus 3? I can't think. And I have dementia. Speak English. 1,500 divided by... Alright, bishop g4. Ugh. Yeah, this doesn't look good. White needs to do something more active now. I mean, is it possible to maybe sacrifice more stuff? Bishop here, knight d2. Takes, queen takes. I mean, what's the difference if we're down a pawn or the exchange? Or both? But I'll tell you one thing for sure. Like, after this and this and this, it's just like, you know, this is not enough now. I just don't think that white has enough here. I hate trading pieces now. Even after bishop takes e2, queen takes e2, bishop takes c3, even this position, I think that black is okay, probably. Give back a pawn, escape, and it'll be like equal. But this is a more aggressive move, h5. So everything I said came to happen. Black played h5, white didn't play h4. Bishop g5, and then castles queenside. Yeah. Preordained. But white played kind of weakly. Alright, e takes f, bishop takes g4 check, takes, queen takes check, f5, defending the g6 pawn. I mean, I know this is like a 30-minute game, but it played like a blitz game. You know, and sadly, white has more time. White's facing a stronger player. He's facing a stronger player and using less time, and now he's like clearly worse. Black has the crushing bishop versus knight, strong pawn on d5. The king is relatively safe, and the h file. White is like lost here. But this has got to be. That's got to be like a question mark blunder. That's me on a bad day. When I like am just tired and don't feel like playing and I'm impatient, you know. He doesn't have permission to make this exchange from the Meister. Yeah, it feels like watching Asterbate 30-minute game or something. Okay, Sensei plays the weird, crazy opening. But now he's like actually playing chess, and this guy is like lost. Monster pawn on d5, h-file, safer king, pawns are on the right color, you have better minor piece. What's Black's advantage here? Like, the very, very, very minimum is like 1.5. It has to be like a very serious advantage. Can't believe it. Wow. The engine just doesn't believe. Black is Snedsteg. Normally, it's funny, like normally Stockfish is like exaggerating advantages. Mr. Coffee, what's up? It's funny because normally Stockfish exaggerates advantages. Now it's actually me who's evaluating in an exaggerated way today. I said Black is like almost strategically winning and the computer thinks it's like under a pawn. Well, at least like fundamentally I'm getting some things right. I think this is insane. You know, to play bishop takes c3. There's no way. You'd have to pay me to make that move. There's no way I'm trading for that knight. What possible reason would you have to give up that long-range bishop? It's like gotta be one of the biggest advantages in Black's game, if not like the main advantage. Look at the knight on c3. What is his future? It's like blocking a c pawn. It can't go to e4. d5 will be protected by c6. This is like a, you know, this is just a pipe dream. Knight a4 is bad. If he's lucky, he could play like h4, knight e2, and try to outpost his knight on f4 or something. That knight is a disaster. It's like, you can't take his knight. Bishop takes knight, oh my god. I guess I'm looking at the wrong game, man. Yeah, I mean, white is 1800. His opponent is 2100. And he makes this move in 30 seconds. That's not thinking outside the box, dude. That's like not thinking at all. Like, I totally think you should consider the option of pawn takes here and reject it soundly. This is a stupid move. In a position where there's a lot more pieces on the board, I could see saying, well, the kings are opposite side castling, I can get an open line. Dude, it's a heavy piece ending with just queen and two rooks each. The position is basically, after queen takes c3, it's like a miracle. Your opponent just gave you a draw. And you're like, no, I don't want it. I want to lose. I want to have a bad pawn structure, you know. He gave away his biggest advantage. I'm going to give him another one. You know, let's give him a chance to win, really. Because queen takes c3 is like... All I can say is like white's trying to lose with b takes c. This like... I can't think of another way to lose, so I'm going to like wreck my own pawn structure for no apparent reason. It's unbelievable. Maybe he just figures he's going to lose anyway because he's playing someone who's... Maybe he just has no self-confidence. Yeah, I'm going to lose anyway. I'll just take with the pawn. Whatever. It's like, dude, I could maybe understand it if you were like... Honestly, I could maybe understand this if you were like a pawn down. You know? Say he like didn't have an f-pawn and he had a lost position materially. And now we're just doing it because we're going to like make a Hail Mary pass down the b file or something. You have a perfectly good position, a miracle happen, and you don't take with the queen. Not to mention the queen is actually pretty well placed here on c3. You know, I actually, I think like black lost all of his advantage. Huh. Yeah, 0-0 after bishop takes knight. I gave my daughter her first chess lesson ever last week, and the first thing I told her was like bishops are worth more than knights. You know, this is very important. Don't believe what they write in the manual in the Parker Brothers box chess set. Bishops and knights are they're not worth 3 points each. You know, bishops are definitely worth more than knights. This is a serious mistake. Having said that, you know there are situations where the knights are stronger, but this is not. Terrible blunders by both sides. And now f4. That's a radical move, and it may not be bad, but it's also, you know, probably not my first thought. The one thing about f4 that bothers me would be, you know, maybe like a queen trade could leave white with some chances to draw. More chances to draw, but I don't think f4 is bad. I don't think I would have played it, but it's not bad. See what the engine says here. Yeah, I can't decide. It's thinking about the queen trade. It's a tough call for white. He decides to play g4. And now black gets an attack on the f-file. I think I would have tried my chances. Next, IM Slajet. WIM Slajet. Wait, did I miss something? What did I miss? I'm at WIM? I think queen f4 I go for here. I'll take my chances with the sweet pawn structure. Now that's a nice pawn structure you've got there. You said your daughter, oh no, I mean, she just like wants it as a hobby. Slat jet. G takes f4. Yeah, I've never been the one to force people to learn unless they wanted to. After g takes f4, rook h3, white has rook e3. So maybe rook h4. And then the question is, could white possibly survive this rook ending? And the answer is yes, but it doesn't look fun. And most likely black has very strong chances to win. So I don't mind f4. I'm not going to say f4 is a mistake. It's committal, but it's an interesting try. And now suddenly white comes under pretty strong pressure on the h file. And now, well, ladies and germs, is this a bluff? It's not exactly a bluff. It's more like a semi-bluff. This is interesting. But I'm not sure. I mean, there's no question that white is on the verge of losing based on his pawn structure. But I think when you get in this situation, you've got to realize, you know, this is your last chance, bro. You know, you've got to take the two rooks for the queen. Because f3 check is just like positionally like crushing. Once he plays f3 check, you don't have a rook anymore at h1. So this is obviously better for black, but I'm not certain it's like white is going to lose here without a fight. Yeah, I mean, it's way harder to play with the two rooks here because the pawns are so wrecked. Plus 2.5, 2.6. Very hard for white to hold. Objectively, it's probably winning for black. But as I said, I'm not saying it's that easy. That's all. It's just not that easy. But white just doesn't recognize the danger of the situation, you know? Yeah, this was really bad. Can you imagine? Queen f3, bishop takes c3. No, interestingly, there's no way he can anticipate pawn takes here, right? There's no way anyone anticipates that move. You have to anticipate like queen takes. But okay, I have another question. Like on f4, why do we need to play g4? You know, I told you it's bad. Like this is bad, a bad ending. But g4 isn't necessary. What about h4? Is this suicide? After h4, the f file gets open. Apparently queen g4 check. I don't know about this, taking on f4. He has rook e6. So actually white was okay. He could have played rook e6. He's threatening to take this pawn. Yeah, this is a poor game. Not by black, except for bishop takes c3. White really played poorly. And then it's rook h4. Game over. He still has two rooks. I like how the rooks end up on original squares on a1 and h1. Alright guys, any other submissions? Or is that it for today? It is cute. I didn't miss any games, did I? I've had trouble sleeping lately. We have a morning stream. Well, 12 noon. Rapid blitz / rapid 5+3 tomorrow, Friday. Yeah, we're over. What is it? 9:48 now. It's about 3-hour stream. All right, guys. We'll see you Friday. Rapid or blitz. 12 noon. 5+3, whatever that is. Thanks, guys, for the donations. Thanks, Asterbait. Thanks, everyone, for submitting your games. It's good to. It's been good to hang out with you. Let me do a raid here. We haven't done a raid in forever. Just Bia streaming. Integers.
All right, dude.
All right, let's do this.